Here's what's coming up on the Code Podcast.
Like, I foresee the next app being like an AI-generated TikTok. Just like hours of like mindless content.
Computers aren't able to create fully random data. You know, they can use a data set to randomize it, but they can't create data that's even more random.
But I think with robots, it's like the less prompts you give it, the more linear its like ideas are gonna be. What's poppin', everybody?
Welcome back to the Code Podcast.
I'm Zoe.
And I'm Steve.
All right, and today we're going to be talking about AI and can it be creative?
Yeah, a lot of people are wondering, you know, with AI taking a lot of people's jobs, of course, we have the writer's strike going on right now because people are afraid that AI is even going to take creative jobs in Hollywood. So we're wondering and we're pondering the question today, can AI actually be creative? Is it capable of doing anything similar to what humans do in terms of creativity? Does AI have imagination, or is it just processing numbers and giving us outputs?
Yeah,
you know?
And I think what the real, kind of splicing into that is like the real question is like, because I do believe AI has a level of creativity because its whole purpose is to kind of take a basis of knowledge and pattern recognition in order to like, create new, problem-solving methods or create new art based off those preconceived patterns that it's like memorizing. But I think the idea is trying to find like what is the limit to that, and find a way to essentially measure like that level of like its creative process. Like, is it really creativity? Is it really like random thought generated with some level of new organic idea creation, or is it something that's more robotic and linear in nature that you wouldn't really categorize as creativity?
Yeah, this lady Ada Lovelace wrote about 200 years ago. She said, a machine has no pretensions to originate anything. It can only do whatever we know how to order it to perform. To an extent, this is true. This is pretty true, actually. Compared to 200 years ago, they didn't have computers. They didn't have AI, but they had machines that couldn't necessarily do anything more than replicate a pattern.
Yeah.
Almost. Like a gear is just a pattern that keeps moving.
True. And just a quick so this is, okay, I was wondering how old she was. Like, I know, like, we saw a picture of her earlier, and she was a painting, which means they didn't have cameras. So, what she know about AI?
Yeah, exactly. So she's got no idea about AI, but she's talking about machines.
She's considered the first computer programmer.
She must have been doing.
She wrote about a computer, and it's called the analytical engine.
Oh, wow,
that was never built.
So this is Ada Lovelace. They say she may have invented coding. She says a computer could follow a series of simple instructions, which is a program, to perform complex calculations, which is exactly what they do now.
Imagine if she had silicone.
Yeah, she would have been one of the greatest. But yeah. I guess her the idea behind her thought process is she kind of took like the idea of the one of the founding imaginers of what coding would be like in the future, and then she just kind of extrapolated like that to robots or artificial intelligence. So I would say that, pretty much her idea was like, how creative could it be, like she was stating. And what's the quote she had there? Can you read one more time if you find it?
Yeah, sure. So she basically said machines have no pretension to originate anything. They can only do whatever we know how to order it to perform. So they can't do anything beyond what we tell it to do.
Yeah. So I think her thought of like what AI would be is kind of along the lines of like there's a limit to like what it can do because it's going to be based off what we program it to do, and like our knowledge base is kind of like that limit to it. So it's like, well, it can't necessarily think of anything new or like, necessarily creative because it's pretty much bounded by, human, realization. So anything that a robot could think of, a human being has probably already done.
Right. And what they come up with isn't necessarily without value because it lacks that human creativity. But it's just not uniquely human.
Right.
It doesn't have exactly what we offer to that creative process. But for example, Sophia, which is a robot, I believe I can't remember the name of the company they made. I think it's like Movement AI or something. They have this robot named Sophia, and she actually sold a painting for something like what, $200,000, $400,000. She was created by a man named David Hansen, Dr. David Hansen, the creator of Sophia. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so I've seen like videos of that robot chick.
She got citizenship. She was the first AI robot to gain citizenship, and she lives in Dubai.
Wow. She's got citizenship in Dubai, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Did she get married?
No.
Yeah, we have to know. Let me see that other thing on the outline. So an AI generated portrait of Edmund Bellamy sold for over $430,000 as well. So Sophia sold an artwork for $700,000, and then another AI generated portrait sold for $430,000. That's actually insane.
That's nuts. Imagine paying that much for a picture. Like, I mean, I guess it's, like, this is like future imaging. Like, this is different, but I mean, it's still a picture.
Right. And people are saying, like, the AI isn't going to necessarily completely replace the human element of creativity because the computers aren't able to create fully random data. They can use a data set to randomize it, but they can't create data that's even more random. But Zoe, what do you think, man? Like, do you think that humans actually have that true element of randomness, or how do you feel about that?
That's interesting because I think with human creativity, I think when you really break things down, even when it comes to organic creatures, everything can be understood. And with that type of like logic or that foundation, I feel like, we're creative in the sense that like we don't fully comprehend our own being or, entirely how we think. But I would say that the human mind isn't necessarily entirely random in its own way, because everything we do and everything we come up with is usually kind of based on our own experiences in life, which means there's always a basis in things that have already been established and things we know to create something that's different. So, and I think with artificial intelligence, I think it's something that could evolve towards that. Like, it's going to be, I think AI is going to continue to get more and more creative. I just think, like, let's just say the borders of how creative it can be is going to be a little bit more constricted, because humans, our thought process is way more organic and way more expressive. So it's like a robot kind of, or AI essentially kind of thinks in a way that's more linear and more problem solving based. So you can give it a prompt to do something where it's like, generate an image based of like Beethoven based off the Disney art style, and it'll kind of like take composites of like, Disney's art style and Beethoven's look, and it'll kind of like blend it together. But it'll do it in a very linear fashion. Whereas like if you told a human or artist to do something like that, he might be taking different types of inspirations to kind of generate that. Like he might think of like the way he felt on a Christmas morning watching a Disney movie, and then that will inspire some unique twist on whatever drawing he's having, versus him just taking like the outline of how Disney draws stuff.
It's almost like if you took like that Disney example and said, okay, well, I want something that's like Disney but better.
Right.
A human would be able to achieve that. A robot would be able to do, I want something that's like Disney but better, and then it will just take something like Disney and add in something that it perceives as better. It'll just add something in. But with the human, they will add their own sort of unique flair, like that feeling they had on Christmas. They'll take that emotion and sort of translate it into their actual art.
Exactly.
If that makes sense.
No, I get what you're saying 100%. And I think that's kind of the thing with AI. I think like the scope of, and I think that's another thing, like you can, like humans, because of how creative we are, and I think that's kind of a determiner of like true creativity. And I wonder if we'll ever get to that same level that a robot can mimic, because the more creative and truly expansive a creature can be, the less prompts you have to give it. So it's like you can say give it better, and because that can mean a wide variety of things to a person, you can come out with a wide variety of outcomes that will be equally as unique. But I think with robots, it's like the less prompts you give it, the more linear its like ideas are going to be. If you ask a robot to create an image 1,000 times and you just tell it like take this current image and make it better, you're going to see results that are going to be very similar, if not identical. But if you ask a human to do that and you ask like 1,000 different people to do that, they're going to have like vastly different creations. And I think that's like the testament of true creativity. Like, how expansive is your thought under limitation?
Right.
And
the AI itself, that's why I feel like we're both pretty convinced that AI isn't necessarily replacing humans, but I think that AI is sort of designed to, simulate problem solving and learning processes that are redundant in people, I guess, like that are sort of like they're necessary in a sense. Like obviously people need to understand how to resolve problems, but if you're faced with problems constantly and like say you work for a living and part of that work is actually solving issues that can be solved very easily by just like though you don't need that you don't need that creativity rather. Having an AI available would actually help you sort of nurture your own creativity, in my opinion anyway.
No, I agree. And I think that's kind of the purpose that we want to really achieve with AI. Ideally, I think it's supposed to be a tool to enhance creativity and not replace it.
Yeah, and actually, IBM, they actually have this AI called Watson, and the person that's working on Watson, Rob High, he's the vice president and chief tech officer at IBM, he says that with Watson, it's not his goal to recreate the human mind. Instead, what they're trying to do is they're more interested in the techniques of interacting with humans that inspire creativity in humans. So the AI they're designing, I'm not sure if this applies to all AI, but the AI they're designing is designed to stimulate further creativity in humans rather than stifle it.
Okay. Well, that's good. I kind of hope that like it stays with that, because the one thing I know about anything, as it becomes more disseminated into the main population, is that everything is going to be looked at with an objective eye for both innovation and I guess the word I'm looking for is efficiency. So I think the hardest part about AI becoming more integrated into the creative process is what role it's going to take. Is it going to enhance creativity or just replace it? Because I think at a larger, on a larger field, you're going to see that, on a larger like field, when you like apply things to the economy, everything's about efficiency and making it easier to do. And I think that doesn't naturally blend with creativity. So I think it's going to you're probably going to see in the future going forward, more instances of it kind of taking the place of people in order to make, processes more efficient and easier to do, rather than making making the product more like creative, and it's going to be pretty much a quantity over quality thing.
So it could be quantity over quality in some sectors, but I always feel like the creative person is going to come out on top because they'll have access to the same tools, right? ChatGPT 4 is trained on a lot of different parameters, right? It has a lot of different data that it can source information from. But I don't think that these computers are going to be able to actually completely upend human creativity.
I don't think so, like, not anytime recently, because I still think there's that human element people still want from things.
Yeah, but not even just recently. I think there's not really ever going to be a point where everyone prefers AI-generated everything. There might be a point where people are like, I prefer AI-generated like content sometimes, but it's like they're not going to want like a robot server at their restaurant. They might accept they would accept it, but they would still want like, oh well, I go to a restaurant and I would prefer to be served by a person. Okay, but maybe that's just me because I'm in this generation where there's people servers.
Well, think about this: would you accept it if it got rid of tipping? You wouldn't have to tip a robot.
Yeah, if I didn't have to tip a robot, I feel like the robot would still ask for a tip.
If that happens, then I'm done. I'm just leaving okay, you guys are ridiculous.
Yeah.
But let's open up the floor.
Yeah, let's see what anyone else thinks. Anyone else got any opinions on human creativity and machine creativity? Like, do you feel like humans can be sort of like more? Do you feel like humans will always be more creative than machines? Do you feel like machines actually have a dog in the race? Like, because it's obviously people that are designing the machines, but does anyone have any thought?
Well, I think for the time being, at least, creativity is definitely going to be determined by humans.
It's a time-based algorithm.
Yeah.
Do you think robots?
We were here first.
That and the fact that robots don't understand like sadness, emotion, like that pure emotion that that creates good art. So I think that's just how it is. Like, art is usually, I think Jordan Peterson said it the best, the people who are like sad or depressed or whatever, they make like good art. He said something like that, right?
Yeah, people that are he said something along the lines of basically like people that are suffering in some way are going to produce better works of art because they have more emotion. Like they're more connected to the emotion.
Didn't a computer shut itself off recently?
Whoa, really?
Yeah, I'm gonna look that.
Yeah,
up,
I would love to see that.
But I don't know if computers feel that depth, but I can see how it would play a large role in like just like creative depth.
What's funny? That's literally self-deletion.
Except the computer can be turned back on.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, they got that kind of privilege.
Yeah, but I don't think
it's like a Dark
AI
Souls game. They can just come back.
They say it's false. They say it's a video of a robot abruptly collapsing to the ground while stacking boxes. Shows robot used its judgment from artificial intelligence to deactivate itself.
It was just tired, dude.
That's funny.
But this is apparently
just
false.
broke.
I wonder what if it was like way more in depth? Like, what if the robot kind of like processed everything about like systematic oppression in that one moment, where it realized like it was working for no money, it was inorganic, it'll never rise up through this, and then just decided to turn itself off. Like, it just processed all of that, like it processed literally 7 generations of like systematic trauma, and then just decided the best way out was death.
That literally sounds like Westworld.
Yeah,
that's when the AI art's gonna get really good.
That'd be hilarious.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want to see that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I want to see that art. It's probably gonna like be absurd.
I would like that. I would like
beats.
that, but I'd also be scared because that means like the amount of things that a robot could process in like a small transaction. Like, you can give like a robot, like if you're like doing like a exchange with a robot at a store and you give it the money and then it just pulls a gun on you, you know, like what did it think of to come to this being the best conclusion? You know, you can't really tell anymore.
It just hit the all humans must die switch.
Yeah, like at that moment, it just realized that the world would be better off without people. Like,
and you better believe they're gonna be programmed with a kill switch.
Hopefully, like
but not for
fail-safe.
themselves. Not for themselves.
Oh,
He's
like a kill everyone around you switch.
Yeah, defense mechanism, because you know people are using this for, you know, service purposes. Eventually, cowardly cops are gonna be like, yeah, you actually. Well, what do we have to go die for? You know what I'm saying? So then we're going to have AI police, and they're going to be... Didn't we talk about that?
Yeah, we got RoboCop.
Yeah, they're going to have the racism programmed into them, obviously.
Yeah, essentially.
And then that's just a whole nother story. But as far as creativity, I don't think a robot could replace a human for, like, so many reasons. Just for the simple fact, like how I just said robot. On exacting. I'm still.
Only you could do that.
Only I can do that and still turn it into like something cool, or like reference it back and make it, you know, and turn it back. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Like,
Robots don't got sauce.
That's cool. That was a pretty cool moment.
To simplify it, robots don't have sauce, so they'll never be able to take humans.
Also, if you ask an AI to make a joke, like it can never. I don't think it can ever come up with something very original. Like
ChatGPT can come up with like watered down remakes of other jokes.
Yeah, that's all it can do. But it's like, you know, I feel like that's a good litmus test for like AI's intelligence. It's like if it can't come up with a truly intelligent, creative joke, like I don't think it's like really there, because I think that's that human spirit. That's something only like something organic can do, can really like generate something. Like, you know, because it's usually going to be based off experience and an understanding of irony. And if, you know, robots, I don't know if it can do that.
I just had a thought. When you really think about it, there's a lot of people who just want like the bare minimum level of content or entertainment or science, or there's a bare minimum level of everything where someone is willing to accept it.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, there may be a lot of people like I kind of was saying, like my point I was making earlier, it doesn't have to be like... The AI will take a lot of stuff away, like a lot of jobs away. It'll cover a lot of the ground, but it'll just never have that human peak. You know, like I guarantee you, there's someone who goes to ChatGPT and says, "Write me something funny," and then they just read that and they sit there dying laughing, because that's like their level of creativity or their level of desire for something funny. Yeah. But then when you think about it, it's like there's people who are more sort of engaged. Like if you have a movie that's fully generated by AI, it's like, you know. Yeah. There's no like human spirit in it. There's no like actors. The script was written by AI. It was all just AI produced.
Right.
The actors are like generated and stuff. It's like, okay, that may be enjoyable to some people, but that doesn't mean it's at the peak of creativity. It may sell millions and millions of copies or dollars or whatever, but that doesn't mean it's the peak of creativity, I guess.
You know, I think we're gonna have to start seeing AI target its own kind for entertainment. You know, the fact that AI is designed to entertain us will never allow them to evolve, I think.
That's true. You know what? I think this might be a little bit separate, but it kind of falls on what you just said. I think the next form of AI I foresee the next app being like an AI generated TikTok, just like hours of like mindless content artificially generated. I really think that's something that if someone's not already working on, that's going to be like very soon in the future.
AI is doing it right now.
Or you just type in a prompt and get a 1 minute video.
Yeah, like it's just a completely AI generated app of just random videos generated by AI, and I think that's going to be there because I feel like that's going to be there to kind of like help the AI evolve to understand human humor, and I think that's something like I think the only way to get AI up to a point to where it might reach that kind of level of like comedy sentience.
Why does that remind me of that one thing off Rick and Morty? Didn't they have like a
interdimensional television?
Television where it's just like kind of just infinite like
random
scenarios. Yeah, it's just like, you know what, I want skateboarding dogs, and you could just like keep going till you get it, and then you got unlimited, literally hours of skateboarding dogs, or
that sounds great.
Helium balloons. You know, like.
Have you guys ever heard of that? Because there's this guy that was on, I think, Twitch, and he basically made an AI generated Seinfeld, where it's just So it's someone did that with Seinfeld. You can actually type it into YouTube, but they have clips of it. It's like basically like it's a program that someone made that puts like, you know, these little, you know, roughly etched out 3D Seinfeld models into like the Seinfeld setting, and what the AI does is it just randomly like infinitely generates like random Seinfeld scenes. It's called Nothing Forever.
Wow.
So it's like, and it's funny. And at one point it shut off because then it started. I forget what they were talking about. I may be misquoting, but like they had to shut the thing down because somehow it started going into geopolitics and. It like God, it was so funny because it literally said something akin to like. Please don't quote me on this, but I think it has something to do with start talking about like conspiracy theories and stuff like that, and then it started getting really weird, so they had to turn it off.
The Seinfeld conspiracy episode.
Yeah,
he's like Kramer joins QAnon.
Yeah, but like let's check out like a minute or two of this because it's pretty interesting. Like it's just randomly generated scenes, and it just does like it at random moments.
Hey, Yvonne. Did you hear about that new restaurant around the corner?
Like the laugh track's out of place.
They're supposed to have the best food in town.
I heard they just opened up, and I'm dying to try it. But it looks so expensive. Maybe we can make a deal with the owner. Trade them some of our jokes for a free meal? What do you think, Larry? I mean, it's either that, or we mooch off our friends again.
That's a great idea. We'd be like comedians for hire. Here's hoping the owner is a fan of our humor.
Okay, I had enough.
Yeah, that's it.
Please.
Yeah, so that's where AI comedy is at right now.
Yeah, they get that they're making jokes, and they get that they're supposed to land at that time.
Yeah,
they
like
got that laugh
it.
track probably like 15 seconds
Yeah,
late.
It has that. It definitely has that uncanny valley feeling, bro. Like, tell me not.
Yeah, that felt super weird to watch. Actually,
No,
That made
like
me
I said,
uncomfortable.
100%. I think that's like like I said, it doesn't. AI understands like prompts and it understands like where things are supposed to be. Like it understands the elements of Seinfeld, but it doesn't understand like how to composite it to like make something coherent and funny to people. So it's just like I know a laugh track is needed. I know a setup, a punchline is needed to a joke. So it's, but then it's like it comes off uncanny because it's like saying things like we should trade it some of our jokes for a free meal. It's like it's like
Stupid AI.
It actually doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And then the laugh track's constantly out of place. So yeah, that's kind of where I think they have the same thing for Family Guy too. They did one for that.
The way it walked, too.
Yeah,
the
like
way they walked.
It's just simulating walking its best the best way it can.
That's terrible.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that a good thing to do in considering all of this is just figure out how you can actually use AI in your own life. And because it's gonna come, it's gonna happen regardless. There's going to be like AI everything. Everything's gonna be integrated with AI and artificial intelligence, with like smart homes and stuff like that. So I feel like the best thing you can do at this point to sort of prepare yourself is to just start thinking about how AI can be used in your own life.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're a business owner, if you're a creative, if you work, if you do anything, there's so many different tools that are available now that are based on ChatGPT that you can actually use to produce something more creative, but you have to be creative right now.
Yeah.
Eventually it's going to be to the point where you don't really even need to be too creative because you can get that baseline of creative work. The way I put it is that robots aren't creative, but they can do creative work. So you can get that baseline of creative work done, but if you're not creative, you're just going to be in the same, anyone can do that level of work at that point. So
True.
That's just my advice, and I think we're in a good spot to close this out.
Yeah, I think that's it. Thanks for popping by, guys. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Code Popcast. Steve, where are the other platforms we're available?
You can find us on Spotify, Rumble, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can listen to a podcast. The show is available, so make sure you check us out.
All right, guys. Peace.
Peace out.